And 10 items. We'll start with number 1, please. I'll be there.
On item 1 of the Fire Department reporting relative to the managed hiring process and position funding, this particular item has been before the Public Safety Committee, and they have recommended approval of 117 special duty positions. This matter is also referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
Hello, Chiefs.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
So what do you want to do?
We are here appreciative of this report being moved in the previous committee. Again, if there's any other questions that we can answer for you, as we had said before, this is the Chief's effort definitely to share in the budget issues that are facing the city and identifying 117 special duty positions to be part of the, as Councilman Parks likes to say, not the managed hiring process, but the revised hiring process as a fire department effort to, again, help the city's budget deficit. And if there's any other questions, we'll take those.
How will this affect your overtime budget, which has obviously hit the news?
It won't affect our overtime budget to any significant dollar amount because the special duty positions only produce savings if the special duty position isn't filled, and not too many of the 117 positions will go vacant during the course of the next fiscal year. And as said before, if one of those positions in the 117 were to go vacant, what would happen before is we would take a person from the fire station, put them in that special duty position, and then overtime to maintain the staffing level of the fire resource would then produce the overtime that people are so fond of referring to.
So the 370 positions, 253 positions should be exempt from managed hiring, and these 117 are going to be part of that managed hiring.
No, the excuse me. The 373 is the total number of special duty positions we have.
We had 370 on this report.
It's close. It's close.
And 253 should be exempt.
Correct.
Of the 370, 253 should be exempt, and then the remaining 117 may be considered for managed hiring as follows. The 117 that we're referring to today. And in Public Safety Committee, I think we agreed to that.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're going to come up with the rest of the savings. Are we going to go to two-man crews?
We are presently working on contingency plans, obviously being faced with a 10% budget reduction in our salary accounts for the upcoming fiscal year, and very well we will be looking at resource reductions.
So you may just have someone driving the fire truck and then...
No, we wouldn't go down on staffing levels on resources because their company integrity, operations, and safety of the crew are our key interests there, but it would be resource.
Have the 4-person crew, and I remember it went down to 3 at one time.
We never did go down to 3. The county in its remote areas does have some companies that do have 3-person staffing, but as you know, with our built-up metropolitan area, we maintain 4-person staffing on our fire companies and 5-person on our truck companies.
Okay. I know this has been hashed out quite a bit. Also, is it on to Budget and Finance, or is it going there next?
Going there next.
See if Mr. Parks was here.
I believe it was waived in Budget and Finance. Councilman Parks, in Public Safety, Councilman Parks waived it out of his Budget and Finance.
It shows on my report referred to Budget and Finance. Do you show it waived?
We'll work on the administrative process of that.
Because if he was here, we could answer that question. And he's supposed to be here, you think, maybe? Did anyone check? Why don't we check and see? And then we could hold this and maybe get that resolved, so you're not questioning, do you have to put another committee or can it get resolved? That would be easy to do. Because I just as soon get it waived, and then it goes to the council, and then we can move on with it. So let's check and see what the status is. Questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. You want to stick around, we can check when he gets here. That way you'll know. You don't
Okay.
both have to stay.
Okay?
You can go out in 100-degree temperature if you want.
Don't get a notification from the council president if it's waived.
Well, I'd like to let them know before they leave here. I understand that, but since it's here and it doesn't show it being waived, and he is a member of the committee, so hopefully he'll finish that other committee and come back here. So we'll approve this as recommended, and we can find out if we get it waived and then get to the council floor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 2, please.
On item 2, the Personnel Department is reporting in response to motion Smith Sign Parks relative to a plan that details a timely and orderly layoff process for city employees. And the report also contains information on the status of the city's seniority list to be used when implementing such a layoff.
Maggie,
Council member,
I hear the audit made you look pretty good.
did you think so?
Yeah.
Great. I thought so too, but,
So we're going to give you another department to manage now.
and what department would
We'll
that be?
figure that out.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that. We were very pleased about the outcome of the audit.
Because you definitely have a huge responsibility.
We do, and with me today is Shannon Pasquel. Shannon is the chief of our classification division and is our point person as it relates to our layoffs. So I think he has some information to provide.
You got police escort yet?
Not yet, but I'm going to need it.
Because Julie
Actu-
Butcher's back there, so you got to be careful.
Well, no, I'm good with Julie. Julie's good with me.
She'll protect you.
Julie's my protection.
Okay.
Actually, it's interesting. The majority of the people in this room are members of our layoff team, so Shannon does come well protected.
Well, I can remember, because there's a lot of rumors going around about layoffs and this and that. When Proposition 13 hit, there were proposed layoffs and reduction in status and pay grade and everything. And I remember with the police department, where I was deployed at the time, how I was being demoted. And Proposition 13 came and went, and I don't know of anyone who got laid off or demoted, but you folks had to spend an incredible amount of time in personnel putting these lists together, which was a tremendous resource. But as I recall, at least in the police department, nothing happened.
Actually, a number of people were terminated from their jobs. During CETA, however, we hired people on temporary training positions, and they were entry level. So when the CETA program ended, those positions were eliminated. However, we didn't have to go through the kind of layoff process that we're talking about in this situation because they were hired to be temporary in the first
So they were
place.
temporary, but not permanent employees.
Right.
Civil service example.
Right, so they weren't accruing seniority, and actually, I think the workforce decreased by several thousand, but they were people who were there only for a temporary period of
I
time.
understand it was a temporary position.
Right.
Yeah, because we hate to frighten people with the perspective that they may lose their position. So tell us what the
Okay,
plan
so
is.
we have a report that we submitted to you. I can go over some of the highlights of the report, and then I'll also kind of talk about some of the things that we've done since the report was sent to you.
Okay.
Okay, so initially, the Personnel Department established a 27-member layoff team in January of 2008, and it consists of several professional and clerical employees from various divisions within the Personnel Department. The layoff team has been receiving ongoing training on how the city's layoff process works and has actually begun layoff calculation efforts in accordance with the mayor's instruction of April 6th. As Maggie said earlier, there are members of the layoff team behind me that are in the audience today that will be responsible for doing this as we get to that decision. Also, to ensure that we have the most up-to-date and accurate information as we go down this path for the layoffs, the Personnel Department has been working directly with the operating departments to update their department's employee work histories. We've had to suspend our training program and cancel the remaining citywide training courses for the time being in order to make room and the training rooms available for the layoff team to be able to start their work. One of the other things that we noted in the report is that we've assembled a separate post-layoff services team and have begun the process of developing some information, and will partner with CDD's rapid response team and the library department to provide information on job placement, unemployment insurance, and various other services. I'd like to also note that the Convention Center has also offered to provide meeting facilities for informational sessions for those employees who are going to be impacted by layoffs in the city. So everyone is really cooperating right now
Are they doing it at their expense or Personnel Department expense?
at their expense.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to point out that we mentioned in the report is that we've also created a Southern California Employer Consortium website where public agencies in the 5-county area can post information on finding solutions to layoffs and advertise any job opportunities that may become available. The Personnel Department has also been working very closely with the operating departments and our employee assistant program advisors on how to provide the appropriate type of information and guidance when addressing concerns raised by employees who are either feeling anxious or stressed about layoffs in the city. So those are the kind of highlights of what our report says. Some additional things that have taken place since we wrote the report. Last week, the Personnel Department provided citywide training for over 200 of the operating department's personnel staff on the city's layoff process and the services that the Personnel Department will be providing post-layoff service. And finally, the Personnel Department will be briefing the Civil Service Commission this Thursday on our efforts as it relates to what we've been doing in preparation for layoffs, and to also walk them through the actual layoff process itself.
Now, if the 10%, which the mayor's urging reductions, salaries, contracts, etc., then the layoff doesn't kick in. It's only in the event that he can't reach his goal with voluntary salary reductions.
Go ahead.
I think that it's really too early to respond to that, because in addition to the 10%, there were positions that were eliminated in departments. So
Previous to this time?
yes. So I think that, we basically have to wait until the dust settles to really get a sense of what is ultimately going to happen. But in the meantime, because our process is so complicated, we're starting. And, we will do what we can given with what is in the blue books and what is being submitted to council.
So you haven't come up with a number of year employment at this point to give any gauge if it were to kick in, how many years?
No, one of the things that's difficult about our layoff system is if you have a person in a class and that individual is the only person in the class, he or she could have 30 years. But if that's the position that gets eliminated, it's the 30-year person who goes. So it really...
I thought they bounced back.
No, that's the only person in that class.
Well, the only way that they can bounce back is if they've ever worked in another
It's
department.
another department.
Right.
Okay.
In a lot of instances in the city, there are a number of city employees who have remained in a single department their whole entire career. So they won't have the opportunity to displace
So
or
they could
bump
be a
out.
30-year employee in a department, and it comes out, and so the person who's got maybe 2 years on the job in the same department would remain, and that 30-year employee would go?
if they're in a different job classification.
Okay.
So it's seniority in the class, and
Seniority in the
that's
class.
right. And what you're referring to is displacement, and that does have a cascade effect
Right. But that wouldn't apply to someone who's been in the same place for 30 years.
if that's the position that's being cut.
It's
Right.
going
So,
to determine what positions are cut.
well, the mayor so far, and then the council, because the council will be taking an action
As
through the
comes
budget.
forward.
Correct.
Because we haven't seen it, we got the books yesterday, so there's a long process before it gets hashed out, Budget and Finance Committee, before it finally gets to the floor.
There are so many moving parts connected with this that it's going to be some time, but in the meantime, we can't afford
So you get your mechanism in place.
Correct.
Okay. So we will monitor it and keep apprised. Okay. And by the way, have you met with the unions and discussed with them the parameters or get their input at all? Has any suggestions or ideas managed, was it the managed union participation?
Oh, joint labor management?
No, it's, Julie, what's that called? Mutual gains bargaining?
The answer is no.
Why?
On any of these questions, sir.
Okay, well,
The answer is no.
I think we would defer to the city administrative office. They're negotiating. They have the responsibility to negotiate with the unions, and we would certainly have input as it relates to the issues that are related to the personnel department.
okay, because I think that something should be done so there's not this big gap. And then there's litigation and grievances and TROs and, all that to keep them in the loop. So whether it goes through personnel department or CAO, CLA or something, there should be, not that they have to be at the table when you're doing your internal work, but some liaison, since they represent the folks. And if they start laying on grievances and arbitrations, and it just creates more havoc for everyone. I just like to, whatever has to be done, has to be done. And we talk about a transparent government, and I'd like to see it as transparent as we can, because we have that mutual gains bargaining for contracts, and we brought them all in good faith. I hate to see us destroy what relationship has been established when it comes to the negotiation process in good times. And while we have it in good times, we need to, I think, share that in bad times too.
Well-
Bad times meaning the economic situation.
Right, and I think we would fully expect before a final decision is made as to relates to any city employee being laid off, that those discussions would have taken place.
Yeah, but before it gets to that point, there needs to be some communication with the union representation of those particular entities, whether it be SIU or PPL or UFLAC or, I haven't been given any information other than what appears. We haven't had any secret meetings about this, that, and the other. And while the department has to do what they need to do, each individual department, plus on your department, the personnel department, which basically manages all those personnel standards citywide, somehow maybe Ms. Gibson can come up with some ideas on that, so we have some kind of a communication versus keeping them in the dark. And then here is the plan, and then all of a sudden we start having litigation take place, which then prevents what the ultimate goal is, to try and save the city. So
We
I
understand.
think somehow we need to move in that direction to some extent, and not necessarily personnel department, but the other entities that are involved, the mayor's office or whomever, to say, we need to work together on this endeavor,
And we
and
understand.
not just block them out. Okay. All right, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Do you wish to note and file the report?
Yes, note and file. Thank you.
Item 3.
Right on.
For item 3, Personnel Department is reporting relative to efforts to improve recruitment and selection of police officer candidates. This is for the period of October through December 2008. Public Safety has waived consideration of this matter.
See, first we talk about laying off, and now we talk about hiring. Interesting. Captain, how are you?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Good. Okay, so what are we going to do with this process? Number 3. Whew, a lot of numbers here. John
Yes,
Dunlap.
good
What do you have to-
afternoon.
What do you have to say for yourself on this?
Well, during the reporting period, we continued to meet and exceed the goals. We had a testing goal of 700 per month, and we exceeded that every month during that reporting period.
Is that because of the captain or because of the economy?
It's primarily because of the captain.
There you go.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
It's my wingman.
And we continue to exceed that through to March. As a matter of fact, this calendar year, in January, we tested somewhere over 1,100. February, we tested over 1,500. In March, we tested over 1,500. And we're, in April, we're on our way to 1,500 again, if not more. So.
And out of the 1,500, how many would actually go to the academy?
Well, normally we say that there's 1 in 12 of every person that ends up beginning the process who has a possibility.
1 in 12 would enter the academy?
Right.
And when you and I went through, it was like 1 in 100?
Somewhat like that, but at that time we didn't have a PBA and some of the other benefits that we have from technology now that also helps us in screening out non-viable candidates.
We took the old Rorschach ink blot test.
It's the truth.
If you failed, that was it. I know the whole testing process has changed, but the recruitment effort, and I see these posters and banners and things and that, which I know we're spending money on. Do we need to keep doing that with the budgetary problems versus the flow of people because of the economy? Clearly, the economy has something to do with it. When people can go into a career where they know, rest assured, there's going to be something there for them. The cost that we're spending on the recruitment effort, could that money be cut back and used for another purpose?
Well, I think that we need to continue recruiting.
I'm not saying don't recruit, but I'm talking about the money that we're expending on advertising or brochures or banners or whatever the heck we're doing.
It's been drastically cut in the last few years. We went from $2 million to $1 million, and it's my understanding that we're looking at about $400,000 for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
So that's been taken into consideration. But the reality, too, is that the personnel department has done a phenomenal job in terms of its marketing and advertising strategy, given the cutbacks. But that budget also covers things other than advertising. Flyers, printing costs. It also pays for our fees for job fairs and other events that we participate in our recruitment ventures.
I'm just looking to try and help come up with $500 million, so
Sure.
every penny we can. Significant numbers, though. And the department has to come up with a 10% cut like everybody else, which will be interesting, how that is going to be kicking in. Tony?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. Anything else before we note and file it and keep up the good work?
No, nothing else.
No.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good to see
Thank
you
you.
again.
Good to see you.
There's a request by my distinguished colleague to go to number 10.
On item 10, you have a motion by yourself and Rosenthal requesting that the appropriate representatives from the Information Technology Agency, the Personnel Department, the CAO, and the affected employees union be requested to attend this meeting to discuss proposed elimination of the 312 work schedule within the ITA.
Was that the one?
Yeah, 9 and 10.
Where'd the fire department go? They were here, we approved an, we approved an item for the fire department on their managed hiring, and there was a question whether you waived it out of budget and finance.
Yes, otherwise I'd have to see it 3 times.
I know, well, that's what we were waiting to see.
We believe it was a waste the first time.
Yeah. Well, I told those guys to wait, and I looked up and they're
We will waive
going,
that out and out of budget and finance and move it on.
will you make sure that they know so they don't have to?
I'm sure it's done. The agendas are drawn up, Tony lists what other committees are referred to. They don't list the status of the waive on agendas. That's not.
All right. Okay, Ms. Zena has, by the way, Mr. Parks is joining us. We've done 1, 2, 3, and we had approved note and file on 2 and 3. And Mr. Cardenas asked that we bring 10 up, and our Deputy City Attorney Zena has a question or concern or comment on number 10 and number 9.
Right. Actually, committee as to 9 and 10, these are matters that are most appropriately heard before EERC. You're dealing with meet and confer issues for which this committee does not have the authority to give bargaining instructions to either the CAO or to ITA. And EERC, well, we have 2 members here on this committee who sit on EERC, and of course, Councilmember Cartness, as any other council member, is welcome to attend EERC. EERC does permit public comment, and so that would be permissible, but you would have the benefit of the committee who actually has the jurisdiction and the authority to give instructions to the CAO on these issues. So there's a process in place to deal with issues relative to impact bargaining, which is what the substance is of at least the schedule change that's raised in
What two items?
number
do you-
10,
9
9 and 10. Yes, so I had previously communicated my concern that these matters weren't appropriately before Personnel Committee, and I wanted to put that on the
While it
record.
wasn't a violation of any rules, regulation, procedure, it was breaking new ground, and I said, well, we like to break new ground.
Well, in
We like
terms-
to set a precedent to break new
As
ground.
long as you're standing on that ground by yourself.
Well, that's why I got you two with me.
Nah, I'm outta
So if we want to, I have, this was brought to my attention through other sources, and my staff then decided, after my request, that we schedule it for this committee at my direction, because there's some issues and concerns regarding some of these changes. So we didn't want to stifle the employees and their concerns and have it bogged down in the system. But if we could have a, not linger, and have it sent directly to have it, because I understand EERC, we don't post EERC, it's done by another entity, and something could be posted there or linger and postpone, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to make sure we can get an answer and let these folks know that we're serious and concerned about it. And that was my concern. So we brought it here so we wouldn't have that problem where we get stuck on the shelf and not heard and not moved or answered. Tom?
The mayor's office sets the ERC agenda, so we will make that request to add these two items.
So why don't we do this, in fairness to everyone? Why don't we direct that these two matters go to EERC with the continuation in this committee in the event it's not scheduled EERC for whatever reason, it will come back to this committee in 60 days. That'll give EERC 60 days to do something with it, and if they don't, then we'll bring it back to this committee. That way it doesn't die, in fairness to everyone. How do you think about Z? That's a good negotiation process for you?
I think that's a good negotiation, as long as, if it should have to come back to this committee, that you still understand that in terms of giving an instruction that would not come from this committee, but certainly you could hear the parties air
Yeah,
their
that-
concerns.
Yeah, right, but I think if we get to ERC with some type of movement, then we could solve the issues, resolve the issues. Maybe everyone won't be happy, but at least we'll have some answers to it.
That's fair.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
let's do that, and then 60 days. If it's not done, then 60 days back to this committee. Okay, so that's 9 and 10. Number 4.
Let me ask, I'll join on your 1 and 3
Okay.
that you covered. I had a question on number 2. That's-
Okay. What they said on number 2 is that they put a group together, 27 people, Maggie? They put a task force of 27 folks from personnel together to set up the mechanism and go through the process. We didn't go into any detail because they don't have it yet, but they were putting together a group in the event we have to do something.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions, just so I'm clear? But where you are now is not to the point of identifying people or positions to be laid off. You've just put a process that once something is triggered, you can move forward. Is that?
Yes, actually what we're doing at this point in time is we're refining the data. So we're still working on the employment work history data to make sure that it's correct. We have found that there have been a few bugs in the system that we're working out. We are looking at the list of positions that were mentioned in the blue books as being eliminated so that we can begin the process. But as you know, it is a very, very cumbersome process. And any way that we can get a head start on this, I mean, we've actually been working on this for quite some time as far as training staff. And but I think that when we actually do get the classes, we will be good to go.
Let me ask, is this primarily a computer-driven system, or is this a paper, pencil, and person system?
It's the latter. And part of that is because our layoff processes are so convoluted, confusing, complex, that, I'll give you an example. You could take a senior management analyst 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter what the pay grade is. What we look at is the total amount of seniority in the class. So there are a number of issues that we have to look at as it relates to placement. You know that over the years we've had class consolidations, so we have to figure out who actually has status in the class and is accruing seniority versus who's been legally employed in the class, and in that case they're accruing seniority in the prior class. So all of these issues are things that are going to have to be addressed, and it can't be computerized. It's based a lot on judgment. So.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Questions answered? So that matters as well. Thank you, Maggie. We can go now to 4 and 6 together, please.
On both items, the Personnel Department is reporting. On item 4, the reporting regarding the development and the feasibility of expanding programs related to existing employee training. And item 6 is basically related. The only difference is that one of those two is also referred to jobs, business growth, and tax reform, and that will be item 6.
Okay. Ladies?
I'd like to start by introducing the topic. Linda Lanier is here to talk primarily about our current training and development program, and Alex to talk about the workforce and succession planning program. And Alex was very involved with both of those when she was the chief of EEO and ED, but recently was reassigned to benefits to take over Mary Ann's job. So
Went to the county.
that's correct. Well, no, Mary Ann went to the county, but Alex has now moved over to
No, let's
benefits.
say Mary Ann went to the county.
That's correct.
Where they're laying off a lot of people.
Hopefully not Mary Ann.
Well, first in, last in, first out. That's all right. You got the spot now.
She's safe.
And she doesn't. Okay.
Approximately, I would say, over 2 years ago, when Alex had been the division chief of that division for a while, she started looking at workforce planning and recognizing there was a tremendous need for that in the city. And as a result of her efforts, we put together a budget package, and in July of 2007, we were authorized two new positions for the purpose of developing a workforce planning program. We made, I think, some tremendous progress. Alex became very involved in working on systems in the city, such as the PACER human resources modules, to automate some of this information, work closely with our retirement group, ITA, the controller, to try to gather as much data, sort it, and analyze as that we could so we could figure out exactly where the city was with workforce planning. At the end of that year, we lost those positions. We only maintained a half of a position as a result of budget cuts, and that half of a position was not beginning till January because the first half of the year they were involved in EEO fire department issues. So we no sooner got started than we stopped. And I think in the audit you mentioned, you see a bit of that in terms of resources necessary to do some of the strategic planning we would like to do as it relates to workforce planning and training. I only say this as a backdrop because we have a number of recommendations in the report. These are all things that we in the Personnel Department believe in, but in all honesty, we have to acknowledge the likelihood of succeeding in those areas anytime soon is remote. Linda's staff, which was 8.5 people not so long ago, is down to 4, largely because of reassigning staff to things such as the layoff project, work comp, benefits, and examining so that we can continue other vital city operations. So I just wanted to explain that before we got started. I didn't want to give anyone false hope about where we might be able to go in the immediate future.
Okay. All right. Alex and Linda, take it away.
Well, basically, in summary, what this report covers is an explanation of what we provide in training. And do you want to give a kind of an overview and and we were asked to look at the feasibility of expanding those programs. In addition, we were asked to look at the feasibility of developing a succession.
Can you speak up, please?
Sure, I'm sorry. The feasibility of developing a succession plan. So I'll have Linda go over what we already provide in terms of employment development and where we are right now and where we'd like to go.
Okay. Well, currently, like Phyllis had mentioned, currently we have shut down training due to the whole layoff issue, and as of April April, May, and June, training has been shut down for that period of time. However, prior to that time, we were offering training through the use of my staff, offering different types of training in the area of supervisory training, customer service, public speaking, some personal development courses, first aid CPR, doing brown bag seminars, lunchtime seminars where we're able to provide different type of training such as in elder care. That's one of the needs that was identified, that there was we had a lot of city employees who are taking care of elder parents and so forth and so forth. We had that as a part of our brown bag program. Also as a part of our program is the mandatory sexual harassment training program, and that is an online training program where we are required to provide training every 2 years to about 13,000 city employees. And
regarding that, I'm a county commissioner. I had to take the class over there as well as here. Why
Yes.
can't we consolidate if you are working with another agency? For example, we have people on the MTA board, we have people on sanitation district, water board, you name it. Why can't we require them to take that, but why do we have to duplicate it?
You
Because I took the similar class at the county as a county commissioner.
Right.
And I said, I already took this. They said, well, we have to give our own.
Right.
We have one standard, I thought, for the state.
Well, the state, there are state provisions or regulations that are set that all city agencies, government agencies have to follow in terms of the types of training. And I do recall we did get a call regarding your particular situation, and it was our understanding we would be able to provide a letter just verifying when you took the training and that it was consistent with the regulations for the state. But by the time
Don't
we
they
were
keep it on file, though, when I took the training?
when you took yes. Yeah, we were able to
So why
verify
couldn't
through
you-
our program.
Why couldn't you provide the letter then?
Well, before we could do the letter, I got a call back from, I can't remember who from your office, got a
Carlene.
call back
Carlene.
saying that it was no longer necessary because you had already went ahead and taken the
Right.
training. So outside of that, we would have went ahead and sent a letter over indicating specifically an outline of our training program, also indicating when you exactly took the program yourself.
But
So
are
we
keeping
can
those
do
rec-
that.
We are keeping those records, I assume.
Yes, we are.
Because
Yes, we
many
are.
council members are on different commissions,
Mm-hmm.
and I was unaware that you have to qualify for that particular agency, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow we need to coordinate that instead of the duplication of efforts. Because if you take it here on computer, and then you go to the county and take it, and you take it to sanitation district,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be on a number of committees, and you keep on, or commissions, and you keep on taking the test, and it's the same thing.
We have verified for individuals in the city who are on other commissions that they have in fact taken it with us, and we will do that anytime. You shouldn't have to take it twice.
Well, I did. They couldn't do the letter.
Is it ethics?
Um,
Ethics training or another type?
No,
It's sexual harassment training.
Harassment. I know we were slated to do your letter. In fact, if I believe I was in the midst of writing the letter at the time, and I got a call back from your staff saying that was okay because you had already gone.
yeah.
I think it happened over the weekend or something like that. I
Okay.
think.
But anyway, so we
But
have that
we can
provision.
do that. Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
we can do that.
have a similar one with ethics, because we, when I was on MTA, we had to take it there and here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was state law or whatever, but they wouldn't
is.
allow us to deviate.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, continue, please.
We'll do the letter.
The other,
Okay.
you mentioned first aid. There's a requirement for police officers and firefighters, and I think we're way out of standard. Who maintains that? Does the personnel department, or is it police department, fire department? Because you're required by law in certain public safety arenas, and from my knowledge, we're way out of standard.
The operating departments keep track of the mandatory training that their people have and the fact that they've had it or not had it. The police department, for example, as you know, has a huge training staff that keeps track of all the post-mandated training and the other training they need to have, as do other departments. In fact, we talked about this because it came up when we did our annual report before you, and we concluded that next year when we go out for our annual report, we will ask that specific information of each department so we can report back to you. But up until this time, we have not been monitoring that because the departments themselves monitor that.
A lot of them aren't doing it.
Well,
That's how close they're monitoring it.
well, that's why it's a good idea, as you suggested last time, for us to check into that when we do our annual report
Right,
and
okay.
do our survey.
Okay.
We'll do that.
One of the training programs that we currently provide that's related to succession planning has to do with the management level training that's specifically geared to employees in the LATMA bargaining unit. And that's actually technically the only program we currently have that provides any type of succession planning for management level employees. One of the gaps that we identified in our report is that there are other supervisory and management level employees that aren't getting this type of training. So that's an area that, if the city had the resources, would be ideal to address.
Let me ask you a question on that. I mean, with the fact that the city goes through the promotional process, is it really realistic that you can put a succession plan in place? Because I always thought the bridge classes, pay grade advancements, put people in positions to get experience for the next level. It's almost impossible to say so-and-so is going to replace so-and-so. Then you have the added issue of the circumstances that is the position or the selection fixed because you put out an interview and the heir apparent was sitting collecting the applications when I came in. So I don't know how realistic
That is a very real issue in a civil service system such as ours and in the culture that we have here in the city. And one of the ways that we dealt with that is we started working on we finished a pilot, a competency model, whereby, and other agencies have done this, whereby you identify maybe 50 some odd competencies across job families up and down. And then when you do your validation work, as we used to do, that we used to keep secret, as we do that, and what we're doing is as we give an exam, we're attempting to use this new competency model. And as we get the competency model for each and every class, we will publicize it. Our pilot program was with the planning department, and as soon as we got those competencies together, we publicized it and put it on the internet for all of their people to see. So that gives people the opportunity to say, oh my goodness, my department thinks that emotional maturity is important to do my job, not just job knowledge, as an example, and good customer service and those kinds of things. So that's the way that we're going to attempt to do it in the future, so that everyone has an equal opportunity to know what's important, what important qualities are.
I guess it's maybe a more sophisticated reading list.
Yes.
Of telling people
what we expect of the job. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding our ability to expand our current classes, we have taken a look at the feasibility of using an online training program for that. And in fact, in our upcoming budget, we've requested funding for an online training academy whereby we would be able to offer training classes to a larger number of city employees. Certainly many more employees than we are able to do through a classroom setting. And we're currently would be focusing on providing supervisory customer service, EEO type of training, as well as reasonable accommodation, with the ultimate goal down the road to continually add to the academy, whereby we will be offering just a really large number of different subjects, taking, of course, a look at the different competencies that are identified and trying to gear those programs toward meeting those competencies.
Sounds good to me. Anything else on that?
Let me just see. Now, you're dealing with 4 and 6?
Yes.
6, yes.
Okay, I just had a question on 6. That
The online training?
Yeah, dealing with the outside or inside vendor.
Yes.
And what I was wondering is that it would appear that and the report recommends outside, but it appears as though if you go outside, you kind of get a generic training, but not the in-house LA City specific training. And I'm just wondering how we reconcile that.
We just similar what we've done with the sexual harassment program. Although we have an outside vendor, we work with them to customize that program to meet our special needs, i.e., the incorporation of the city's sexual harassment policies and procedures. We also had them to include, which is not a requirement by the state, a segment dealing with hazing as well. So they'll work with us in terms of designing the program. We will work with them in terms of designing the program to incorporate whatever customized topics that we'd like to have, and that's something that's normal in, in terms of working with outside vendors that are putting on on-site online training programs.
But now, we're not relying totally on outside. We still have our internal training? Or are we saying we've moved to where outside training is the only way we go?
No, we will still have a training unit. Currently have a staff of 4. So,
Actually doing the training.
actually doing the training, classroom training. It is our intent to continue to offer the classroom training as well.
Do we make a split on what type of training we prefer inside versus going outside, or by subject area? Does it fall into those kind of categories?
Well, we were looking, particularly for the Online Training Academy, the 4 classes that we're initially recommending to include in that are our supervisory-based training courses, typically supervisory-type classes that will give individuals the nuts and bolts in terms of how to be a supervisor. And then looking at your EEO issues, looking in terms of the federal and state laws and making sure that supervisors are aware of that information. Secondly, customer service, and that was in conjunction with a motion from council indicating that the personnel department should look into providing customer service training to all city employees that have customer service contact, and basically that's everyone. And in order to reach that goal, an online training program, we would be able to do that a lot quicker. Currently, we do offer a customer service class, and we offer that class once a month, and we can train up to 35 people at a time. And if we're looking at having to train 40,000 plus employees through a classroom style, it would take us quite a while. Hence, we decided that we could work with an outside vendor to customize the program to meet our needs on the customer service and be able to train a larger number of individuals at a lot faster pace as well. As far as the in-house training program, basically using staff to train in those areas where it would require more expertise on the city side. So we would still be offering supervisory type of training classes, but maybe we do more advanced types of training classes in supervision. We would also likely continue to offer like public speaking, because public speaking in the city may be a little bit different in terms of making presentations before the council and so forth, and we would gear our programs that direction.
Thank you.
I like it. So receive and file?
Yes.
Moving forward?
9 for 6.
4 and 6?
For the record, you're noting and filing item 4, but item 6 has actual recommendations that if you wish, you can approve.
And there was a cost to number 6, $300 million or something?
We wish.
Add another 0 on your birthday cake.
It'd be nice.
300,000?
Yes.
Where are you going to get that money from, Maggie?
Basically trading in a couple of vacant staff positions. It's currently in the mayor's budget
Oh, it is?
for the new year.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, we'll see about that next week.
Oh boy.
All right, we'll approve that and notify the. Look at June Gibson snickering.
I'm looking at the councilor to your left.
You're snickering at the councilman to the left. Councilman Parks, she's snickering at you. Okay, so we'll approve that second one, number 6, and hopefully the money will come forward to help that training, because without training, we can't get the effectiveness that we wish. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, that's
Item 5.
4 and 6. Number 5.
Let me just ask one question on that. Maggie, on holding positions, by chance, these aren't positions that may have been cut on the budget that, okay.
No, I'm not that clever.
Okay.
Those are actual.
These are real body.
Real
Are
positions.
they vacancies or people are actually?
No, they're vacant.
Vacant.
They're vacant.
All right, thank you.
He's testing you, Maggie.
I know he is.
Okay, now number 5.
On item 5, you have Personnel Department again, and this time they're reporting on a motion that was introduced by Mr. LaBonge and Mr. Garcetti, and this has to do with the existing city employee recognition programs and the feasibility of implementing a similar program to the one that the county has by the name of On-the-Spot Recognition Program. Personnel Department is here to address any questions you may have.
By the way, Mr. Cardenas is left for the future votes. It'll be Mr. Zine and Mr. Parks. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. In response to a council motion, the Personnel Department examined the feasibility of implementing a on-the-spot recognition program similar to that offered by the County of Los Angeles. And based on our analysis, and also looking at what is currently going on in the city of Los Angeles in terms of the recognition programs, which we currently have two formal programs, one being the Career Service Award program, and secondly being the Quality and Productivity Awards program, which are both annual programs. We also surveyed city departments to determine exactly if there were other programs out there that were being headed up by individual departments, and we were able to, in response to our survey, 16 departments reported back that they are actively participate or actively have a recognition program in place whereby they are recognizing employees on a regular basis, whether it be by a quarterly program, a monthly program, an annual program, or a biannual program. So there's a number of different programs that are going on within the city of Los Angeles. However, taking a look at the county's program, and the county program allows them to provide employees basically on the spot, immediate recognition for the different types of activities they're involved in, and we can see some real feasibility in that. In fact, that the city has had it on a recognition program since 1971, but pretty much more formal programs. But to have an opportunity to give employees on the spot, not only from supervisors and managers inside the city, but also affording the public an opportunity to recognize employees that are providing them outstanding service as well. So based on our findings, it's our recommendation that the council adopt our recommendation as far as implementing an on-spot recognition program in the city of Los Angeles.
And that cost is going to be from $100 to $5,000 annually?
Yes.
How do you go from 100 to 5,000?
It really in our survey, even talking with the representative in the county as well, the cost really has a lot to do with exactly the specific program that's put on inside the department itself. So currently in the city, with those programs that are overseen by individual departments, they run the gamut from, you have some departments that are printing, well, through computer technology and so forth, printing certificates, which is really just the cost of the ink and the paper in order to do certificates.
What if we had one standard for all departments, instead of having one for library, one for sanitation, one for fire, one for police, one for CAO, CLA? What if we had the official City of Los Angeles? Does the county have one for all departments?
No.
Because I think if you had one for all departments, one for the city, it would stand out.
Well, we do have a formal. We have the Career Service Award program, which is a formal.
That's once a year, and that's only
that's
select
once a
group
year.
of people.
That's once a year.
But I'm talking about, say you see somebody doing something extraordinary, wonderful, and you want to acknowledge them. I remember in the police department we used to have called the turkey ticket during the holidays. What's so funny about the turkey ticket? You'd be driving down the street and you'd do something nice. You'd help someone across the street. You'd be extra courteous, and the officer would pull you over, and you think you're getting a ticket, and you get what's called a turkey ticket, which means you go and redeem that for a turkey at one of our major supermarkets. And people loved it. So it would encourage them. Instead, you get stopped by the officer, you get a ticket, go to court, pay the fine, etc. This was the turkey ticket. You were getting a reward for something good. So I'm not advocating turkeys. What I'm saying is if we had something of a standard, that it would be from whatever department, because you would save probably printing costs, and have it the official city on the spot, whether you're picking up trash or giving books at the library, and your supervisor would then distribute those accordingly. What do you think about that? Instead of having 55 different departments with 55 different and all the printing involved.
I think maybe Linda might have contacted the county and asked them about something else. Our understanding in terms of the county's on-the-spot recognition program is exactly what you indicated. The county does have a form that is very nicely printed. It's a nice, colorful form, and I think that the county employees appreciate, frankly, how pretty it looks.
It's just right here, except it's not in color.
Right, and that's not the colored version of it, but we did receive a copy of the color version, and there is... There's one form, right, that is distributed throughout the county, and it is available to all supervisors, so that essentially on an ad hoc basis, if somebody such as yourself, Councilman, who does a wonderful job in committee, Councilman Parks could decide to pick up the form and fill it out on the spot, and that's where they came up.
What's your name?
And that's where they
It's
came
not
up.
Jack.
That's where they came up with the name on-the-spot recognition. So, the county's program, I think, in terms of our review of the matter is consistent with what you're suggesting.
See, so let's do that. I think that's a lot quicker, simpler, and that way, we're not going to have the police department form and the fire department form and the Rex and Parks form and the light, because we'll just duplicate the same thing, which adds to the cost. I think it's coming from the city of Los Angeles to an employee on the spot, you did something good, and then the employee supervisors would then look for those people who go over and above, they finish a project overnight, or whatever the case may be. Like, I mean, there's things that people do all the time.
Okay, I just like to real quickly just draw your attention to the, there is a recommended form, one standard form for the City of Los Angeles. It's attached to our report. It's,
There is?
should be this.
There you go,
So-
on the spot
right,
employee.
right. So it is our recommendation that there be a standard form.
So we do the same thing as the county on standard form?
Basically.
Okay, I thought you said we were going to do a form for each department.
No, I was talking, that this is a recognition form, and more so what I was talking about is that once you get the recognition form, then basically, what is the reward to the employee for
Well, you get
getting
so,
these?
You get so many, you can collect the trips or the TVs. Well, say you get 5 in a year, or you get 10 in a year. There's got to be something
Right. Okay.
that goes along with that. Free new cars. I don't know. There's got to be something that would encourage to get some kind of a reward, and that each department can figure out what they want. For example, 10851, Grand Theft Auto. If you arrest so many people in stolen cars, you get a 10850 pin, and the police department gives that to you, which means you're an expert in auto theft. Or some of the different pins and badges and
Right.
ribbons, and like you run the Olympics, you get a medal. So.
Okay, that was one of the reasons why we were recommending that we would have the standard form, but as far as the actual reward, say, i.e. the pin, that would be left up to the department management to decide. Because looking at in the research and so forth, we're finding that what necessarily that excite employees in the personnel department may not be the same thing that excite employees that are in, let's say, public works, engineering,
I'm sure
or whatever.
you're right.
So if we were to leave that
Some
the
departments
actual
are more
reward,
exciting than others.
leave the actual reward up to the management to make that decision.
Like the city
And
attorney's
pretty
office,
much.
you get the scales of justice.
Really?
Like the fire department, you get a little,
Fire engine or
Dalmatian
Yeah.
with a little fire hose. Or so, something that can recognize. The police department, you get a little badge. I like that idea, but if we do this form, then each department come up with what they want to come up with.
Yes. That was the idea with the form. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You like the form though?
Oh, the form is good. One thing I was thinking about.
You were thinking. Don't get choked up.
No, the form I think is good in the spot recognition, but the one program that we have that's outstanding that it's getting less and less recognition is the productivity program. We then at one time had a big lunch, and we should do things now. I think the last time we were upstairs in City Hall and we kind of waved at everybody as they were sitting there. And I mean, it would appear that maybe one of the recognitions that if you get so many of these, you get honored at the productivity luncheon. Hopefully,
we could work
we'll
that in.
find money to have a luncheon again. I mean, that's the thing that it seems strange that we would promote this and not be able to fund a luncheon once a year to talk about productivity in our employees.
And we could have the unions chip in on it, right, Julie?
One of the things I'd like to bring up is that the Career Service Award program, we have been restricted to the same 5 minutes that the public has for public comments. So, which is one of the reasons that Councilmember Zine has been the MC out on the porch of City Hall because the individuals cannot get the recognition within the council chambers.
The program ahead of time where they get the individual acknowledgement. Then when they come to council, what is just rolling the names through.
Right.
But see, what's happened is we have so many different programs, and it's always on Friday, and the council members were complaining that it would take an hour and a half. Each person comes up. So what we do now is we have a pre-event. We just had the thing for women. It was, Pioneer Women. We had Pioneer Women. Well, we had a breakfast upstairs in the Rotunda, in the Bradley Tower, and then we gave the recognition up there, and then they came down to council and we read their names, they stood up, they were recognized, and it was a lot quicker, because when we spend an hour and a half, whether it be career service awards or something, but what we do is have the pre-event, which we have all the accolades, the pictures, and then they do come to council, and we call their name, they stand up, they get recognized, so they are on camera, but we don't read the whole thing because the council members were complaining it was taking way too long. That's what happened with it. So the Pioneer women, they were very appreciative. The council papers, we got that done quick and moved on.
Well, I just want to say, these are employees
I
of the
agree with
city
you.
of Los Angeles, and it seems to me that they should be able to get more than 5 minutes in the council. We don't have to have the long program that we have had in the past, but I think that for our own employees, particularly civilians, they don't get a whole lot of recognition.
But we bring them forward, and we do acknowledge them, not only with the breakfast, but we do acknowledge them in council, and to have them stand, have them recognized. I mean, we used to have them give speeches, thank you very much, times. So, I mean, it really got to the point that the time consumption was the concern. And then the majority of the council said, we need to shorten this up, which is why we've done it the way we've done it. But we can make sure that's duly respected and they're recognized in a professional fashion without reading the whole thing, which is what we've done the first couple times. And, I mean, the people are saying this is way too long.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I just think that they should not be treated in the same way that a person in public comment
You're right.
should
Public
be treated.
comment doesn't get 5 minutes, so they get 1 or 2. Plus, what we do is we can take them in the back, and we can do in the media room, we can put them on camera as long as we want. And then that runs on Channel 35 also. So we could do a longer version in the back room at where we have the press room.
Well, not to belabor it, it's just that, these folks, they bring their families,
It's a big
and
deal.
it's a huge deal, and for them to be in the presence of your illustrious body, meaning the council, is...
Talk about that.
I thought I'd better clarify that.
Illustrious.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
No wonder your husband's in retirement.
Let me ask you one thing. Does your department coordinate the productivity award?
No.
Who does that?
CAO.
CAO. Okay.
That's why it's...
Yeah, but there's no budget anymore, right?
Why we cut it back, because we had no money.
No money, okay, all right.
Okay, no, we will make sure that's done properly, because we get beautiful plats and certificates, resolutions. But, one thing, when I was with the Police Protective League, they'd always ask us for money for projects. We've got some unions that I'm sure if we asked them, they would be more than happy to help participate in some funding for some of these things that aren't, overly expensive. I went to their picnic that they had at North Highland Park. They're hot dogs and hamburgers, and they're feeding half the community. So, when we ask them to participate in this, it's their employees that we want to recognize. So to have them participate is also recognizable.
Good idea.
Because they do have the money that we don't have. Right, Julie?
Thank you.
I thought the answer today, my general answer today was no.
Well, no, this is something good, though. Okay, let's go on to, okay, we got those corrected, we've got that recognized. So you're going to have the form done, and we'll start that program. So we got 4 and 6 done, correct? Madam Clerk?
Yeah.
4, 5,
You're on
4, 5, and
5.
6. Okay, yeah, that was 4, 5, and 6. Okay,
So
now we're
for
up to 7.
5, for the record, you're in essence concurring with the Personnel Department's recommendation.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And all right, number 7, please. And then number 8, and we're done.
7 is the Personnel Department again, and this has to do with city employee awareness of the dangers of identity theft.
Okey-doke.
Okay, and November...
Another great motion by me.
Yes.
How did this come up, Mr. Perry? I know, but why?
I can, actually, it's because of both of you. Your motion, when we were here to report on it, Councilmember Zine, Councilmember Parks suggested that we do this, and so we're just reporting back on that. We did do that.
Oh, okay. All right, Linda, thank you very much.
Because what did we have? We had a rash or something of people being taken advantage of on their identity theft, I think it was.
We want to notify the employee, so the medical identity theft, anyway, why don't you go into the information you have, Linda?
Okay. Okay. In compliance with the committee's request, the Personnel Department, what we moved forward with was the publication of articles in the Wellness Quarterly newsletter. That newsletter was sent out via GroupWise to over 26,000 city employees, advising them of what is identity theft, what they can do, who they can call should they be impacted by identity theft. Secondly, we sent out letters to all qualified employee organizations, employee associations, credit unions on February the 4th, asking their assistance in notifying employees as well about identity theft and also providing them information concerning who they can call should they be impacted by that particular situation. We also provided those organizations, associations, credit unions, and so forth, some resources that we obtained from the police department. Their identity theft brochure, we provided them a copy of that, as well as provided them the website address of where additional information could be obtained as well. So those are the steps that we took in order to try and get more information out there to city employees regarding identity theft.
Excellent. And I know it's become a problem that doesn't seem to get any better. And we tell people constantly to be careful with their identity.
Yes, indeed.
And we have 40 different employee organizations, associations, and credit unions in the city family, 40 of them. Have they all been contacted according to the sheet?
Yes, they were all forwarded the letter.
Great.
And
okay, so we've given them proper notification to protect themselves
yes.
and their employee groups. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Parks? No. Okay, Linda, thank you. Number 7, note and file. Or would you like to receive and file?
Note and file.
Okay. And then how about number 8?
On A, Personnel Department is reporting again, and this has to do with an amendment to a contract with National Seminars Group to increase the maximum amount payable from $440,000 to $640,000, just to conduct state-mandated online sexual harassment training.
Linda, you're still on stage.
I'm still on stage.
He's very busy.
Maggie, how come you don't have anybody else working up there?
Linda can do it all.
All right.
Trying to save money.
No kidding, except we're going to spend it here.
Okay. In accordance to Assembly Bill 1825, the City of Los Angeles is required to provide training to its supervisors and managers every 2 years. And as we approach a new significant year of training, that we do need to make sure we have a contract in place in order to be able to, again, train those 13,000 city employees who will start falling out of compliance in October of this year. The current contract with National Seminars is due to expire on August the 2nd, 2009. So we're looking to sign an amended contract, also provide the $200,000 in order to have the monies available to train these 13,000 individuals again.
Why is it going up so much?
What happens is every 2 years we train the large number of individuals whereby we need the $200,000 in order to do that. On the off years when we have we're training those individuals who are newly appointed supervisors or managers, or those individuals that perhaps when we went through the main cycle were off and those types of things. They're not coming back to work. And that number generally runs us about 600, 700 people at the cost of about $25,000. But every 2 years, because we have to retrain the 13,000, then the cost, of course, rises.
And do we do competitive bidding on this with different RFPs to see if somebody's more competitive with the state mandated standard?
We are currently in the process of issuing, or we have issued an RFP to solicit additional bids for sexual harassment training. However, because we're looking at this being a major year and we're just starting the RFP process, and it's based on the proposals coming in, the review of the proposal, and the selection, so forth, we want to make sure that we still have a contract in place. It's likely that the RFP process will go well past August 2nd date. So
it's all computerized. So whatever program they have, they put that program in, we dial up, we get the program, we do the test. There's no human involvement. I mean, there's no human involvement from their end. It's our end. It's all on the computer process.
Well, what's also included in the program is they also do the actual housing of the program is on their particular site. And because it's on their site, they also troubleshoot any problems that we have. Any problems with the system, some glitches or whatever with the system, they do maintain the system that way for us. It's a matter of a phone call, and they will look into whatever we need to look in. We ask them to look into. One of the things we talked about in our online training report to you was the fact that we had approached ITA, and they have indicated they do not have the staff in order to provide that type of technology support to an in-house program, and so that's why we're outside.
And it's actually a charge for the licensing fee. They charge us X amount of dollars per head, and the actual cost has not increased over the 5 years. It's always been approximately $200,000 when we train 13,000 people.
Okay. Well, it's required by law. We have to do it. I'm just trying to figure out how we come up with the $500 million. Right, Tom?
Good luck.
And your 10% pay reduction is not going to make it happen. No, we have to have a lot of those. All right, so this would be a note and file. No questions?
There is an action under the sub-file 1, which is to approve the recommendations.
Yeah, okay.
Let me just ask for clarity, this additional funds is just to add one more year
Yes,
to an existing contract?
the year and the monies.
Pardon?
The 5th year, along with the $200,000.
Oh, that's what I mean, but the 200,000 is merely adding a 5th year.
A 5th year, yes.
We have some cards on number 9 and 10, but since we sent those through, do we need to read those? 9 and 10, but we submitted those
Right, to
forward.
ERC. You can read them into the record and
Okay,
indicate.
Christopher Moody, Angel Calvo, second time, Audrey Walker, Alayat. None of them are here. We're submitting those cards for the record. That concludes our meeting at 4:25. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Meg.
Thank you. Too much personnel.